All right, welcome. My name is Dennis DeLoach, and I'm the host of the Uncle Jim Effect podcast. This is episode number 54, and I've got my friend Daniel Corbett with us. I don't know if I've been this excited for any of the podcasts I've done for so many reasons. I met you, Daniel, at a mutual friend of ours, Tom Shea's shooting event back in South Carolina about a month ago. And obviously you're a Navy SEAL, but that, to me, the most impressive thing about you was when I got done with that, I thought this guy might be one of the most talented, well-rounded guys I've ever met for so many reasons. And I want to kind of go over all that. But first, I want to welcome everybody and let everybody know that please subscribe to the channel. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And Daniel, if you would you kind of give everybody right up front all the ways that they can contact you? And we'll do that again at the end if they miss it. But I'd like to start that way.
Yeah, no problem. I'm at American_mercenary on Instagram. And that's about it so far right now. Perfect.
At American_mercenary on Instagram, or X. Is that what they call it now?
That's the X is its own thing. That used to be Twitter.
So that's right. See, I'm not even that good with social media.
Hey, I'm learning it too. We're good.
So I just want to start again. I already mentioned you were a Navy SEAL, and I'm sure that's how people identify you all the time. But my listeners, what we've talked about for so long is kind of in life, we're always dealt blows, and we're always dealing with what life hands us, and how do we overcome that? How do we get hope from people through either things they say or do, or how do we realize our God-given potential to be able to do those things in life that we kind of were created to do, or where we have the biggest impact, not only for ourselves, but family and those people around us. So based on that, kind of do us a favor, just kind of start, if you would, based back when you were in high school, just your upbringing, stuff like that, and what got you into the Navy SEALs up to that point.
Moved around a bunch as a kid, and I think that definitely helped me either be more social, or, the other option is to be a hermit and be afraid of change and interactions. So I said, well, I can go one of two ways. I can either go make friends and get used to the change every time we moved. And I did. So I think that definitely helped as far as like my social aspect and my social well-being. Moved around a bunch, and then I went to high school in Northern California, small town, 25,000 people, and football star. And then one year I ran cross country, and that's where I saw the VHS History Channel tape about the Navy SEALs. Pretty much it covered Vietnam and the training pipeline of Navy SEALs. And they said it's the hardest training in the world. And one point in the documentary, they interviewed a SEAL. They said, why are you guys so good? And he goes, it's not that we're so good. It's just that everyone else sucks. And I was like, I like that mentality. That's cool. And I was always pushing it in high school. I was doing triathlons on my own time. And I was kind of got into the endurance sports, not because I generally liked those sports in particular. I just like the mind space you had to go to and how much you had to push yourself when you're doing the long runs or the long swims or the long bikes.
Yeah. It's always amazed me that when you talk to guys like yourself that are so established in physical activity or mental challenges like that, and becoming a Navy SEAL, the triathlons, the ultra marathons. And that's a question I get asked a lot. What is it that I guess makes them tick in that area of discipline? I think most people know, hey, if I work out more, eat less, I'm probably going to be in better shape. If I take one step at a time and keep doing it, in a year I can do a marathon. Crazy question, but this is the one I get asked the most when people know I'm interviewing people like you that are so successful. What is the secret to the discipline? Or for you, what is it that clicks? And a lot of times it's such an easy thing that for you guys, like, I just do it. But can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. For me, I don't know, maybe I'm a bit of a masochist, but I enjoy the process. I enjoy the pain. I enjoy seeing what I can do. And I enjoy seeing where that limit is where I can't do something. So I think I have a definite benefit to where I'm not only focused on the goal and being disciplined because I want to achieve this thing. I want to see how many burpees I can do in 2 hours. I want to see how far I can run when it's 110 outside out here in Phoenix. So I think I definitely have an advantage because I like the process, not only the goal, but I like the day-to-day. So I think drinking the Kool-Aid, a little bit for yourself. You wake up, you're like, oh, I don't want to get up. It's cold outside. And be like, you know what? I wish it was colder. Right. And then kind of giving yourself that little lie. So you drink a little bit of the Kool-Aid, believe your own hype. And then after you drink the Kool-Aid a little bit, then you're like, oh, the Kool-Aid's not bad. And the Kool-Aid becomes real. And then you actually do start to enjoy those things.
That's awesome. So it sounds to me like it's a lot of people that I've seen, including myself. I mean, I'm as guilty of that as anybody. Is you focus almost on the end result, the marathon, instead of, man, just get up and put your shoes on and go walk or run today. And that process. So yeah, that's amazing. Question, you said you like to be pushing that. Have you ever got to a point where you said, okay, that's it. That's all I can do? Yeah.
I have a loop I do. It's 6 miles. And this is pretty recently. It's the most current one I can think of. I think it was 115 out. And I don't think I was properly hydrated. I had my pack and stuff. And I was on mile 3 and my heart rate was super high for the pace I was running. And I'm like, something's not right. And then I have to be mature enough to know, am I just being a wimp or is this a legit thing? And then when I saw my heart rate pushing at what it was with the pace I was doing, I had to swallow my pride, realize I hit my limit, and I had to walk it back home the rest of the 3 miles. Yeah.
Just so people know, you live in Arizona, so
correct. Yeah.
115 is just a typical average day out there, I think.
Yeah. Well, right now I think we're at we had 114 the other day, and I think we're 108 today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's good to know that that is a big difference to be able to know, I've pushed it too far, because there is a difference between having a heart attack or saying, no, I just got to suck it up, maybe walk for a minute and go. But
yeah. And if something bigger was on the line versus me and my own little weird experiment I'm doing on myself, I would go, right? If I'm deployed with the boys and shit's popping off and you just got to go, you go, because that's what you're there to do. Or you're going to get that contract if you're a pro fighter, or if you're pushing it to get into the NFL, or what, you're trying to go all in on this next thing. Or me, I'm like, okay, I don't need to go pass out on the side of the road here for what? So time and place, and it definitely was not the time and place to push it. So it was hard to do, but I definitely swallowed my pride, and I felt a little bit of shame walking back past all the cars on the side of the road driving by when I was going back home. Yeah.
Did anybody honk at you and laugh?
No.
So you mentioned football. So the reason that hit me is we spent, I think it was 4 days out there in South Carolina, and just listening to you interact with the guys and talking in the evening as we visit. And I was so impressed that, okay, so what I saw about you that was so well-rounded from a physical standpoint, we're given you're a Navy SEAL. So that aside, because it's so easy to focus on that, and we could do an 8-hour podcast on that. And I want to hit some of that, but just out of respect for the person you are and everything I saw, I want to just say, okay, we acknowledge that. But so in high school, I mean, if I remember right, you had a D1 offer or some offers to play football.
It was going that route.
Okay.
And it was right before that became a reality. And it was like, okay, do I put all my eggs in this basket? Because there were scouts and I was doing really well. And it was either put all my eggs in that basket and pray and hope it happens, or not. And as soon as I saw the guys that were going to college that were 6'4", 250, and they said, look, we can't make you grow, but we can teach this big guy how to play football. I said, okay. I mean, a lot of that's changed now. I've met so many pro NFL players here that are just awesome athletes, and they're, under 6 foot. And I'm like, what? So a lot of that's changed. But at the time, I'm like, I don't really think I'm going to keep growing. Yeah. This is a lot it's a lot to put in someone else's hands to pick you. Where if I joined the Navy and became a SEAL, it's on me to be in shape and pass everything and pass all the written tests as well. So I felt like I had more control and it was less of a gamble, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I love that. And so, I mean, to me, as I'm talking about, really honestly, you're probably one of the most well-rounded, talented people I've met. Check the physical box. Navy SEAL, you know, potential D1 athlete. How many languages do you speak?
Well, maybe two. At a time, I spoke multiple very well. I spoke Tagalog, which is now called Filipino, pretty well. But I have yet to meet a bunch of Filipinos to practice on where I live now, or native speakers, or even someone who speaks Filipino. I got pretty good at Korean. I lived in Korea for 6 months, and I got conversational in Russian, and then through an intense immersion program, I got very good at Serbian, and I speak a little bit of Spanish.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that Serbian immersion program.
Yeah.
Probably not something you highly recommend, but
no.
So, I mean, okay, so physical, Navy SEAL, you speak at one time. I think you probably conversation can do 5, 6, 7 of them or whatever that number is. So, I mean, that's hard enough for some of us to learn a second language. So, I mean, that impressed me is we got to talk more. I think most people think, oh, this guy's a Navy SEAL. He's a blockhead and wants to fight everybody and do all these things. And yet you and I had some pretty good conversations about the creative side and the interest you have in that and helping through philanthropy and creating those type of things that help veterans because of the creative side that you guys have so much. And I said, well, that just seems at odds to me. And you kind of said, no, really, being a SEAL, we're very creative. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, yes, that is the end goal for me to get in this a spot where I can be in that position to help others. Yeah, so a lot of people think military, they think rank and file, they think put your head down, take orders, and I think there are units that do that, and I think that is needed to some degree. Mm-hmm. But when you have special forces and you're given a task and you are asked to think outside the box from day one of training, and you're encouraged to, like, that mentality is developed and fostered since day one of BUDS training. And you'll be given a target set, and it's like, hey, what if we dress up like this? What if we take this route instead of that route? And it's not like people are saying, no, that's not what the book says, and that's not how we've always done it. Everyone's open to the ideas. So it is very creative. And there are plenty of like transition programs where you can go and then you can, and they're great. They're great. So if you do want to go that route, great. I'm not knocking them. You can go get the job at the bank, making, your 6-figure job, corporate life, to rank and file, very structured. Some people like it. Some people need it. It's there. Awesome. And I never saw anything that was there for guys transitioning out for the arts or to be creative. And I think a lot of guys who suffer when they leave the military, it's because they don't get that creative side anymore. They get into their whatever job they find. And I would like to build a pathway eventually for guys to tap into that and monetize it, right? Make a living from doing something creative versus, nothing against corporate, but like going straight corporate and just pretending like that creative side of you just never existed. Like I can't imagine that feels good.
And that you bring up a big point. I think you said transition a couple times. Seems like a lot of guys, whether it's a professional athlete or high intensity profession like being a SEAL, getting out of that, jumping out of being an NFL or NBA player to quote unquote normal life. That's a transition.
Oh yeah.
I heard in one of your other podcasts, you mentioned your mom gave you some advice and said something about when you were thinking about going around. Talk a little bit about that transition, what it looked like for you, and then, maybe that advice you got.
So I went from being in the military to being a contractor doing security gigs here and there overseas. So that's always a good option for guys just getting out. But at the same time, I think it delays the transition process because you're not really transitioning. You're just doing what you were doing privately.
Mm-hmm.
It's like hair of the dog in the morning. You're just delaying the hangover. I'm just delaying the pain of transitioning and the discomfort and the growth that needs to happen. I mean, I didn't transition truly probably until like 2020 because I just kept doing the same type of thing I did in the military. And, you know, when I was given an opportunity to go a certain route in finance and the corporate side or go back to what I was doing, even though I had a little hiccup, my mom said, do what you love and just be careful. I said, okay. And I went back to doing what I was doing before.
You know, moms, they're the best consultants in the world, aren't they?
Yeah.
They tend to have that not only pure love for you, but the insight into your strengths, weaknesses, loves, whatever that is. And I just seems like you don't often go wrong listening to them. So I think that's pretty good advice that she gave.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good stat. I think mom's batting 1,000 on advice.
Yeah, I'm not going to vote against moms. So okay, we've mentioned this diversion program and hiccup. Let's talk a little bit about that. So again, over this podcast was built on, it's called the Uncle Jim effect. And my Uncle Jim made some comments to me back when I was a young kid, a 15-year-old, about the potential he saw in me. And what that did for me, as I look back on that some 3 or 4 decades later, and got asked a question I'd never been asked before, like, what do you attribute some of the success you had based on your upbringing? Because based on some of my genetics, I probably should have been down this path that didn't lead to success. And yet, you know, I've been one of the most blessed guys around, just from family and opportunities and that. And as that hit me, and I'd never been asked that question, it came to me clear as bell, man, it's what my Uncle Jim said to me. And so that clicked to me that, wow, the words that we have or the hope we can give somebody is a pivot point for them. And we might not know that. So the effect that we have on people, whether it's words or actions, has an effect on them, what they do. And so that's what this whole podcast is about. And so this story about what you went through and what it did for you and how you handled that, to me, again, is one of the reasons I honestly believe you're one of the most talented, well-rounded guys I've ever met. Talk a little bit about that that diversion program you went through.
The language immersion.
Language immersion. There we go.
Yeah. So I was doing a job overseas in Belgrade, Serbia. Nothing crazy, nothing illegal, and wrong place, wrong time. Was arrested. Was totally honest with the police. Yes, I'm an American. I'm an ex-military guy, Navy SEAL. Okay. And that was enough for them to be very interested in me, to the point where I sat in Serbian jail for 11 months without being charged. Finally got charged on the end of month 11. Took a month to get a judge because no one wanted my case because there was no evidence against me. But the government wanted me to be guilty, but there was nothing to be guilty of. So after we got the judge, we went to court, and unlike in the States, court takes 6 months in Serbia. So then I did 6 months in court, and by the last court date, excuse me, the judge said, "I'm so sorry this happened to you. We find you innocent on all charges. I hope this doesn't put a bad taste in your mouth as far as Serbia goes, and you're free to go." And that was the my language immersion program, where I got pretty good at Serbian and okay at chess.
Yeah. So, I mean, okay, you know, what you just said there, when we talk about hope and overcoming obstacles, okay, that's an obstacle that most people aren't going to face in life. And I've heard you talk about that a couple of times. And to me, almost the nonchalant, oh, by the way, it's what's in front of me, I'm just dealing with it. attitude, it's just amazed me. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, were there times that you were close to losing hope, or did you lose hope, or what got you through that daily process? Because for 11 months anyway, they didn't even charge you. So, you know, I might be in there 10 years. Who knows? I mean, talk a little bit about that process.
Just like when you're going through buds, you don't look at the 6 months of all the shit you got to do. You look at what you need to do right now. I need to wake up, make my bed. Boom, done. What do I need? I need to run to chow. Okay, we get in line, I'll run to chow. Okay, what's next? Okay, 2 mile ocean swim. So I just focus on things in front of me, and I don't compartmentalize. I prioritize my emotions versus my actions, right? So I need to finish the mission first. I'm not going to be emotional about something if it's not going to contribute to the result of whatever I'm dealing with. So I'm not compartmentalizing. I'm just prioritizing to be upset or to be frustrated. It's not going to help me right now. So, you know, I was in prison, being held. I just looked at day to day. What can I do today? Well, you know, I'm okay. I'm going to work out. Okay, I have 22 hours a day in this 10 by 10 room. Okay, I'm going to do a bunch of push-ups. I'm going to do a bunch of burpees. I'm going to get in shape. Asked the prison for English to Serbian dictionary. Got some paper, made flashcards. So if there, it's easier said than done, but there was so many things out of my control. And I was already physically imprisoned. I wasn't going to let them imprison my mind by me dwelling on the things I can't control and being upset about it. I just focused on the things I could control, which was my physical health, my mental health, right? And that's it. So I just, day to day, I just did things that would make me better in whatever category you can imagine. Fitness, learning a new language, reading another book.
Wow. I mean, that makes so much sense. I'm trying to read the minds of people listening to this, and yeah, but you know, were there times that you said, okay, today's not a good day. I am.
Yeah, for sure. There's been days where I was pretty bummed after a court date, or a hit piece came out on me in the newspaper, and I was like, ugh, and I just lay in bed. But I knew if I just laid in bed, it'd probably be a while before I got up, like days. Yeah. And that's when the discipline comes in, and that's when that nonchalant attitude doesn't work anymore. That's when you have to dig in and be like, okay, it's easy to go work out or do something when you're well rested and everything's going right and your ear pods are charged. That's easy. I don't count that. It's when you didn't get enough sleep and your ear pods aren't charged and you still go to the gym. Like, those are the days that count. So the days I woke up feeling like, screw it, I'm just not going to get out of bed, that's when I had to dig deep and keep the promise to myself of doing something productive for myself each day. And that's when that's when 10 push-ups felt like 1,000 push-ups, but I still did it. Right.
That's amazing. So I guess after that experience, now looking back on it, what's the number one or top 2 or 3 lessons that you learned from that now looking back?
There's always a way. There's always a way. Like, never, like, it's so generic. It's a motto that's been in the SEAL teams. You know, you're never out of the fight. Just don't stop. And then the second one I learned was, they say, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Yeah. True, unless you're in the courtroom, then that's a good room to be in.
Yeah, that's unfortunately that's the lesson you learned, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about this book. And by the way, your book, American Mercenary, is on Amazon now. You can pre-order. I believe it gets released August 20th. Is that right?
Correct. And it can be purchased wherever you can buy books. Yeah.
And I mean, I don't have a copy yet, but having talked to you and seen that, it is, I mean, I can't wait to read it. I think it's going to be a bestseller. I think you're going to have such tremendous success because of the insights. This isn't a book about war. It's a book about you and what you went through and how you overcame all these things. and it's such a unique book. Talk a little bit about that process, the book, what it's about, how that came to be, and that process.
It was about 6 months since I had been released from Serbian prison after standing trial and being acquitted. And I get a call from a book agent. Hey, I'm Rob O'Neill's book agent. He told me about your story. Do you want to do a book? And I said, no. I was still chasing the dragon in the private mercenary world. And I didn't think having my face on a book was to be good for doing the things I used to do. But that world started slowing down, and I got another phone call from the agent, and I said, you know what, let's do it. I said, okay, teamed up with a writer who pretty much became a mentor to me and taught me how to be a better writer myself. We knocked out the book about a year, and we had to submit it to the Pentagon because there were some references to the military, and they had to redact or do the things they need to do for it to be okay. And I think the total process, about 1.5 years to almost 2 years in the making, editing, getting approved by the Pentagon. And when I was asked if I wanted to do the book, I had one stipulation. I said, I don't want to do just another Navy SEAL book.
Yeah.
Like, we did missions and I was in buds, the water was cold, and I did log PT. Like, yeah, we know. Like, we all know. You can watch it on History Channel or read any other book. They said, okay. I'm like, let's do post-military. You have a guy who's at SEAL Team 6 who has all these skills, who likes doing the things he does. You know, what other options were there for me? Right? Yeah, it's not woe is me, but I was like, this just naturally fits. So I just kept going that way. And the trials and tribulations, the humor, the absurdity, yeah, it's all in there. It's more of a human story than a shoot 'em up story.
Yeah. Wow, what a great human story. You talk about that writing process that you said took about a year. I'm sure there's people that want to write a book. I'm in the process of it and have been for about 2 years writing a book about the Uncle Jim effect. And this podcast really came out of that, but I know what my process looks like. Tell me about that process for you, a year, what a day looked like, and just that process.
So the writer I was working with was remote. He was in New York. And he said, look, just do a timeline. Do straight up chronological. Birth date to your deployment. So I just did a timeline, which really helped. And then significant events in that timeline. And he said, don't worry about it. We'll write down everything, even if it's not it. Let's just write it down. And, just to have all those things to pull from if you wanted to. And then we decided on how we wanted to start it. And it would go something like this. From the timeline, we created chapters. And then he would say, okay, fill out these chapters. Give me chapters 1 through 3. So I'd sit down, have a Red Bull, get in the zone, and, bang out 3 chapters and then send it to him. And then he would fine tune it or be like, maybe you should say that. Maybe you should say this. I'm like, well, SEALs would never say that. So there was like at the beginning, getting to learn each other. And I had to teach him like the slang and the acronyms and how things are said. You can say I was in the SEAL teams, but you wouldn't say I was in the SEALs. You would say I'm a SEAL. Just little nuances like that.
Yeah.
And then he would send stuff back to me. And in the end, I'm the writer. It's my book. So I'd have final say. Like, nah, nope. Or like, oh my God, that's so good.
Yeah.
And we would just go back and forth like that. And I think the book is 63 chapters.
Wow.
But it's only like 260 pages. So they're really fun. They're fast, really good tempo. Yeah, I definitely read it in a day if out by the pool or on the beach. Yeah.
I love those books that the chapters, there's more of them and they're just shorter. Yep. Because the topics grab your attention. You're like, wow, okay, that's only 3, 4, 5 pages. So you get in and it's done. So yeah, I'm really excited. I encourage everybody that's hearing this, go right now and pre-order that. Like I said, it's on Amazon, or if you just Google your name, and follow him and do all that stuff. That book is, I just think it's going to be phenomenal and change people's lives, give a lot of people hope with your story. So, you know, we've talked about a lot of stuff. Let's step back now. And obviously you're a Navy SEAL and you've been on teams. Talk as much as you can about what that looked like from, I mean, obviously you made it through BUD/S and that, but just kind of broadly, you know, when you started, how long you were in, what teams you were on, what deployment, you know, without getting in trouble, just so the readers know, or the listeners know your story.
Yeah, easy. I graduated BUD/S, I think I was 19 and joined at 18. Just got through, didn't get hurt. Got through SEAL qualification training and checked right into SEAL Team 5. And my first deployment was summer of 2005 in Ramadi and Habaniya in Iraq, in Baghdad. And so it was great. It was experience right out the gate. And there was guys that were senior instructors when we were going through the pipeline that were mildly bitter. And now I understand why. They were saying, look, man, I've been a SEAL for 18 years. I've been East Coast, West Coast. I've been trying to find something to do. And you guys are just now graduating and you're going right to the show. Yeah. So as far as timing goes, pretty lucky, right? I'm not saying war is good, but if you're signing up to go to war and one's happening, it's inherently good. That's what you want to do. Yeah. So I got super lucky there. Then I did a deployment after that to the Philippines, which was cool, different. It's more working with their special forces and training them and actually learning way more from them than we did because they lived, like we were training guys in the jungle, they lived there.
Yeah.
So that was pretty awesome. Great food, great people. And then that's when I was told about screening for SEAL Team 6. I put in my package, screened for SEAL Team 6, made it through selection and checked into my squadron and got to do 2 really cool, really fun deployments there. And I got to do 2 other special taskings while I was there, which were both awesome. And yeah, that was my career in the SEAL teams in a nutshell. And then after that, I came back to the West Coast to teach CQC or close quarters combat to future SEALs, kids who've graduated BUD/S and they're in the advanced training called SEAL qualification training. And me and a couple other guys that were also from SEAL Team 6 were teaching that block of room clearing. And that was awesome too, to go from, you know, being the best to teaching. And people can tell you you're good, you're so good, you're great. And it does get old after a while, but I've found that it's never gotten old being told, hey, my guys are so good because you trained them. And like that feeling is second to none for me. So if I have a chance to teach people or help them get through a plateau they're at, that feeling to me is way better than someone telling me, oh, Dan, you're so cool, you're so good, or whatever.
You know, that is such a good point. That really fits in with this podcast because to me, you're realizing your God-given potential as not only a doer, you were the best in the world at what you were doing, but it's a different mindset and skill set to be able to come back and train people. But as you're doing that, you're now creating and helping people do what they do, which in essence saves not only their life, but gets rid of bad guys that save, you know, hundreds or thousands of lives. And that's a heck of a process. Talk about as much as you can. I don't know that people know when you said I went through that SEAL Team 6 selection process or what that looked like. What is that process? Are you asked to be on? Is it a application? What's that look like?
So I can only speak to my experience.
Yeah.
You had to have the Master Chief of your command recommend you. Then you had to fill out a packet. Then first day physical screening, and then second day was just like, you know, the psych comes in and asks you, you know, make sure you're not totally crazy. And then the third day is an interview board with senior command members from that team, kind of grilling you, kind of giving you impossible questions to answer and seeing how you react. Got the thumbs up. And then 6 months later, I checked in to go through the selection and training. selection and training there was pretty much breakneck speed, advanced tactics, and if you made a Monday mistake on a Tuesday, you were gone. Right? You can make a Monday mistake on Monday, but if you made a Monday mistake on Tuesday, you're out of there.
I like how you put that.
Yeah. So we went from like, we lost half the guys, and the guys were great. They just, the pace at which it moves, you have to be so dialed in. You have to be able to learn, understand, and replicate new information and know it, because they're going to give you more, and you're going to build on top of it. You know, you think, oh, they gave us A, B, and C. Oh my God, C is so crazy. And it's like, no, it goes all the way to Z. And you're like, what? So like, and we have to get to Z in 3 weeks, and you're stuck on C. You're holding everyone else back. You're out of here. Yeah. So it was that, and it was good. It was fun.
Yeah, that's amazing, and that really is the best of the best. I heard you describe it. You know, when you're on another SEAL team, basically, you know, you're there, but you have time to go out and do things. But when you're on SEAL Team 6, in essence, it's a 24/7 calling or job.
Yes, you have to be ready to go to work all the time. And me, I was a young man, and I came from the West Coast White Side SEAL team, regular SEAL team, where after 5 o'clock, I was off work. I was no longer a SEAL, right? I didn't tell people I was a SEAL. No one asked. It didn't matter. But when you go to 6, like you're part of the National Mission Force. Like, you can't be going out doing dumb shit or perceived to be doing dumb stuff, right? You need to be locked and loaded, ready to go, and professional all the time. And that was a big hurdle for me at the tender age of 23 when I checked in.
Can't imagine. You became a SEAL really almost as young as you can.
Yeah.
It sounds like. I mean, I'm sure guys were younger than you, but not much, and pretty much out of high school and did it and got through the first time. And that is amazing. I don't want to put you on the spot, but our mutual friend Tom Shea, who I've known for a decade, he's been a great friend and mentor to me. He was one of your trainers, and he basically told me, he said, this guy Daniel was basically well known as one of the best SEALs ever. Not like ever, you know, kind of a good one. I mean, the words he used, I'm paraphrasing, but it was in essence, oh yeah, people know Daniel. He's one of the best, if not the best SEAL in essence that has been around for a long time. And I don't know if you knew that, but that coming from Tom, that was a big deal. And I know you'll shrug it off.
I mean, I've been hearing this, and I mean, it's an insane compliment. I don't feel that way. You know, I was just trying to be good at what I did. And if people feel that way, cool. I mean, I feel a little weird hearing it, but I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, I wanted you to know that. So I guess basically with what we've talked about, with what your life, where you're at now, what you've done, for people that, again, we talked about in the beginning, people that are experiencing life, whether it's they're going through a divorce, a bankruptcy, you know, heaven forbid, an illness with a spouse or children, all of the things that unfortunately are part of life, and they get beaten down and they think, gosh, I'm just stuck in this, or, you know, I'm getting a 8 to 5 paycheck, and, you know, I don't feel like I'm maximizing my potential, but at least it's consistent. At least I'm not rocking the boat. Here I am. But deep down, it's like, man, I know there's something else out there.
Yeah.
If that made any sense, what is your recommendation to them? And I'm sure you've done that in your life.
I went through that when I first left the Navy. I'd meet people and I'd spend time with them, and they would say, Daniel, you're so smart. You're so amazing. You can do something big. And I felt that way too, but it's frustrating because I didn't know what it was. I didn't know. I didn't have one passion that was big enough for me to go all into. And I didn't want to fake it. Like, oh, I need to go be an entrepreneur and do drop shipping or whatever, because everyone says, oh, you're so smart, you're going to do so good. It's okay not to know. it's okay to know that it's there, but you don't need to know what it is, because it might be something you've never even thought of. My second one is, if you're going through the hard times, that's when you double down. That's when you wake up 2 hours early to get an even better workout in. That's when you focus on your mental, physical, and spiritual health even more. That's when you make sure you hold the door open for the person behind you. Like, that's when you need to double down and do all the right things. And then when things are going really well, that's when you need to slow down. Okay, what's going on? Make sure everything's still good. Make sure all the screws and bolts are tightened, and make sure all the wiring's good. Like, okay, all right, and then continue on. So when things are bad for me, I double down, and things are good for me, I slow down.
Man, I love that. The way you just put that is, most people, things get tough. It's an excuse for me
to a stop. They come to a complete stop.
Yeah,
you need to be the buffalo when there's a storm. They turn and go into it, where cows run away, and it prolongs the storm. Or the buffalo will turn around, bison, and will go into the storm, because they double down. They go through it.
I like that. That's a visual I won't forget. It's true. I think as humans, we say, "Oh, time's tough. I've got a good excuse," but like you said, double down. When you don't have time, get up earlier, do it.
Yep.
Wow. This has been phenomenal to me. Again, share with them the book's coming out August 20th on Amazon, but they can go pre-order it now. I would highly recommend you go pre-order it now so that it can be delivered, not waste time. And then they can get a hold of you. Yep. Go ahead and tell us about that.
I'm on Instagram. It's at American_mercenary.
Okay. I'm excited about that. What all do you have going on in life now? I know you love to golf. What do you do to stay busy?
It might be a little too hot to golf, but I love running in this weather. So getting some miles in, getting some workouts in. I have an app. We're still trying to get off the ground, and in regards to the book, promoting that, making sure as many people know about it as possible. And I'm also working on something with a very big studio, and I'm very happy to be in talks with them and a certain actor. So nothing official yet, but that could be another big, fun, exciting development that I'm also looking forward to. So yeah, that's what I got going on.
Wow, that's an amazing teaser. So people pay attention. Follow Daniel. There's going to be some big news coming. I know it. As far as I do want to say one other thing. When we were there for that shooting course, I was amazed at the end. Somebody said, "Hey, work on this target." We're right, I believe, on the rifle range, and you were 175, 200 yards out, and basically within 2 shots, we're hitting these little metal targets with a pistol, which it was just phenomenal to me. And that was unheard of in my world. Yours, it might be normal, but that was phenomenal.
I mean, it was a little downhill, 200-yard shot on steel. It took me a couple to walk on, but I'll take it. Yeah, it was a good shot.
Yeah, it was. It's several shots, and it didn't take you long to lock on. That was amazing. Then you did that speed drill. That was great. Well, I'll tell you, I can't thank you enough. Any last words of advice, again, for these people with your life and what you've seen of this podcast?
Just keep going. And if you don't know what that thing is, it's okay. Just keep going, because preparation and opportunity, right? So maybe the opportunity is not happening right now, but you can prepare, and you don't want to miss that opportunity because you weren't prepared. Yeah. You want to be ready for it. And then when it comes across your path, you can jump on it.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, in my short interaction with you, like I said, and I mean it, I don't really throw fluff. You're one of the most talented guys that I've ever met. And I mean, from a all well-rounded aspect. And that's as high a compliment as I can give you, not only from a physical standpoint, probably more importantly, from a mental, just little things like you mentioned, when times are bad, hold that door open for somebody. That gives a little insight into who you are. Rough on the exterior, but doing all the right things. So, man, we wish you nothing but the best of luck.
Awesome. Thank you.
Everybody that's involved, please go get that book right now. Don't wait. Amazon, American Mercenary by Daniel Corbett. Daniel, I can't thank you enough. You'll probably never know the impact you've had on people, but I had a mentor once tell me that I try to envision that my fruit grows on other people's trees. And so as you work with these people, and just the comments you made today is going to have so many Uncle Jim effects in their life where they can look back at one point and say, I learned from this podcast I saw with Daniel Corbett. He said, when times get tough, double down, get up a little early. And I did that, and it helped me. And like I said, you probably will never know those, but I guarantee you there's going to be lots and lots of those down the road. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
And continue to look forward to growing our friendship. Thanks, my friend.
Thank you.
Hang on, and I'll talk to you in a second.